A lot of players have a really hard time understanding LOS, meaning lines of sight, whether that's head holes, feet holes, rotates, whether it's crouchable, vaultable, etc. So in today's video, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be explaining everything lines of sight. So if you or a friend needs to see this video, be sure to like the video, comment, and share to a friend, because a lot of players really mess up sight setups, or they just do sight setups based off of what they see in Pro League or in champ lobbies. And it doesn't make sense to do any type of strat like that if you don't understand the purpose of it, or if you're not playing around it properly. So hopefully I explain it nice and thoroughly in this video. Enjoy the video, guys. Now this rotate hole right here, I see a lot of people doing, and this is very, very wrong. See this rotate, this is a way better alternative. Now the reason why this is a better alternative is because as a defender, you now have all the possibilities of one, having a little bit of protection, and you're able to make any punch holes and whatnot. Another reason is because if the attackers somehow take sight and they just walk into sight, they're gonna have to get so deep that they're gonna have to actually have a vault prompt and keep their gun down for a quick second, or they're just leaving themselves at a disadvantage having to make that audio. So that's why it rotates like this, especially on sites like, you know, billiards. You're going to want to make it vaultable. Now let me show you an example of where you're not going to want to make it vaultable. Head over on hookah once again. This is a default rotate, and the reason why you're not making this vaultable is because if you make it vaultable, it's going to be damn near impossible to try to get back into sight from the staircase. And even if the attackers come up onto here and they get into hookah, you as a defender is now able to go up CV, aka cool vibes, and you have a limited amount of angles. So it's kind of like a retake angle as well, because a lot of times people do waltz into hookah on this L couch and they try to plant. So you need to have this angle as a defender. When making rotates in between sites, most of the time, keep in mind most of the time, you need to be aware of what angles there are and what would be better, vaultable or crouchable. In this instance on kitchen, rotate walkable / crouchable rotate is 20 times better than a vaultable, because the vaultable one is going to make so much noise for the attackers that they're going to have so much intel if you rotate in between sites, and then you're not going to be able to rotate in between sites retaking the map unless you want to give them audio, and then you're only going to have to be able to push through this one single door, and then they will have a limited amount of angles that they need to watch, which makes it easier for you to die. So on this site, you're going to want to make it crouchable basically, because it's just a lot better, and then you can hold the bomb angle, and then you can rotate in between sites, and it's just much easier. Another example of rotate holes is right here on this kegs on coastline when you're holding downstairs kitchen. As you can tell, if you make a rotate here, and by the way, this is very common for extension into main lobby, you now have a vault prompt. Of going back to what I was saying when at hookah, if I make this rotatable, like runnable or crouchable, then they can just walk into sight nice and quiet. So this is a huge no-no. You're only going to want to make it vaultable, because then even as a defender, you can now have audio if they jump in the sight, and you'll know. Now I made these a little too big, so you're actually able to completely prone through it, but a lot of people leave this quad wall while defending kitchen / service soft, and they don't do anything with these blue bar holes. The reason why you're going to want to make a hole like this, for example, is because now as a defender, you can control more of the map. You can extend out into main lobby, and the person that's playing main lobby, they're now able to get any lines of sight from the person walking into blue bar. Now as an attacker, you're going to be in a tough scenario, because one, you're going to have to make sure you're clearing and keeping your gun up for all these blue bar angles after you drone and whatnot, and now you have another angle you have to worry about. It just creates so much pressure on the attacker to actually take this map control. So it's going to be super hard for them to feel like they're protected, and the only way they're going to feel protected is by being in this position right here. Of course, and now they can't play behind this blue bar comfortably. They can't play tucked right here for anybody on server. Sunrise. And they're just kind of screwed, because now they're going to have to sit here proning, worrying about this angle if they really want to try to fight it. Of course, you're going to want to make it lower, not expose most of the body, because now somebody can crouch. I just made it a little bit too high. Feet holes are essential in Rainbow Six Siege, and there's a huge difference between feet holes and head holes. For example, a lot of people either make head holes or feet holes on this, Pebbles Hall. Now, there's pluses and negatives to both. One, as an attacker, you have all the angles into sight, and that cuts off anybody rotating or trying to, retake sight from this single door right here. So you have the advantage as the attacker taking that gunfight. So as an defender, instead, what you're going to want to do is make feet holes for any of the attackers late round trying to take map control. And then you can, shoot their feet if they're walking Pebbles Hall. But a plus with these head holes right here is if you're in courtyard as a defender and you're retaking the map because they have, started executing into sight, you can now kill anybody that's jumping into the main kitchen window. So if they try to plant, you can have an angle on them, you can kill them, etc. So be wary of how you're making head holes or feet holes, because there's a huge difference and they serve two different purposes, but they're highly effective in both situations. Now, another example of feet holes is right here on this toilet's quad wall. A lot of people will make like a random maybe head hole or whatnot, and that's cool if you have a specific strat. The only head hole I would personally make is right here on this far toilet, and that's only because this allows me to actually get an angle to swing if they're trying to, take deep, and then, they're kind of stuck at a disadvantage being in the corner on this window because they take in so deep that there's so many angles that's going to overwhelm them. Another prominent feet hole would be right here. And the reason why you're doing that is because now if they try to walk in, they have another angle that they need to worry about. But this is only good if you have somebody playing main lobby, because they're now able to, peek them. If they try to walk in, you can shoot their feet. Of course, this is very complex stuff. So you're just going to want to use your brain when playing most of these maps and ask yourself what would be the most beneficial for these maps. Say you're playing hookah. A lot of people ask yourself right now, would you make a head hole on this wall or a feet hole? Or would you just leave it soft? Let me know it in the comments right now. If you said head holes, you are correct. The reason why you're making head holes right here is because you're now able to extend out and hold angles from all sorts of different situations. For example, on this pink double, on this 90 hallway, of course, somebody's on the roof, they might get an angle, but this is all situational. And just if you're rotating in between sites, as an attacker, you're going to be so overwhelmed with the amount of angles that the defenders have that you're going to have to check so many different things. As you can tell, as an attacker, I'm going to have to worry about someone that's on the hookah bomb, or if somebody's on this head hole right here, or another head hole for 90, and then vase, left side vase, L couch, cool vibes rotate, tuck left, etc. As you can tell, the main purpose of this is to overwhelm the attackers with angles. This is the whole point of Siege, and this is why site setup is so freaking important. Another example of prominent feet holes would be on downstairs bakery. When you're holding this, ask yourself, would a head hole or foot hole right here be better or worse? Because this wall will be reinforced. Well, definitely a feet hole. Because now if the attacker walks in, they can now ADS and contest anybody that's trying to contest prep and trying to help out anybody that's playing bakery. So now it's going to be completely hard for the person that's in prep to hold this and be safe. Especially anybody that's on the window or even tucked on this black box, there's now an angle. This is why you make a feet hole here. Because now, if you make a feet hole without the head hole and an attacker walks in, the only form of protection is going to be right here on this hard reinforced wall, which makes it 10 times easier for the defenders to swing and already know that he's going to be in this general area. On this red hallway, it's very common for players to play coat check. Of course, you're going to make a head hole right here, reinforce the right side. I'm just showing this for an example. If you do a feet hole, you don't have this angle in prep. But if you do a head angle, you have the angle for prep and it allows you to extend out. You also have an angle for if they walk into when they open up this breach. But if you made it a feet hole, you would only be able to see this stove. You see what I mean? The whole purpose of feet holes and head holes. For example, right here is another good example. You're going to want to make feet holes here because as an attacker, you're going to have to literally prone to see if you can kill anybody. And then if you're going to run in, you have a direct counter angle for K1 and K2. And it's going to be so hard for you to jump over to this, you know, little tucked area because K1 and K2 has an angle because of the feet holes. Now, see this cart wall right here? I see a lot of people either making head holes or feet holes. And ask yourself, I think this is one of the walls where you can do either or and it still be effective. Personally, I like to do head holes, but once again, if your teammates aren't watching new balcony or they're not holding anything prominent for heaven or even under, then it's going to be really hard for the person that's playing bitch corner to be safe. Now, the reason why I like to do the head holes here is because when I'm over here playing piano in this bitch corner area, I can now have control over ticket, the window, and then if they try to walk into new, it's another angle they have to worry about. Now, you could make the argument that you can prone and get that same direct angle, but then once again, they're going to hear proning and it's just awkward having to do this. And in my opinion, I just prefer the head angles, but that's just me. Once again, feet holes can be very effective here, but I also find that if anybody drops skylight or if they try to go into new bulk window, I would love to have that angle, you know, from couches, not have just feet angles. So there's purposes of both, and whatever you're into, that's fine. But personally, I just like head angles. So I hope so far you kind of understand why you do head angles. Head angles are for more direct lines of sight that is just going to help you get kills and extend out the map. For example, on this cart wall, if I do head angles here, I have a direct line of sight into new balcony, and then I have a direct line of sight if they drop skylight or if they go new bulk, and vice versa. But if I make feet holes, that is for late takes. For example, if the attacker tries to walk into new balcony and he crouches in or he just walks in, I'm going to see his feet, and that's to overwhelm the attacker. It's not more or less to help a strat, it's more to just concern the attacker and make them feel so overwhelmed with what they're pushing that they're going to question even if they want to do that because of the lines of sight. And another example is, once again, the feet holes on reading 90. This is a very common strat as well. If I make head holes here and I make head holes in this wall right here in the reading, then I have direct line of sight if they get in the sight and they try to take late. I also have a line of sight in the pillar. Now, of course, that works the other way around. As an attacker, I now have line of sight in the sight, but that's going to overwhelm me as an attacker because I have no idea where anybody is or if they could be swinging. So it's another angle that I'm going to have to worry about. But if I have feet holes, then that kind of limits the amount of angles the attackers can have. And yeah. So just be aware of how you hold angles and how you place rotates and head holes and feet holes. So I hope this video was somewhat helpful for you guys, especially whether you're long-term or newer players, because sight setup, especially with lines of sight, can be very confusing on different maps. Just know that a lot of the times when you go from rank to rank or squad to squad, some people might play a little bit differently, but the most important thing is understanding why they do the things that they do, and so you can play around these strats. So if you guys enjoyed the video and you found some type of value in this video, be sure to like, sub, and comment, and thank you so much for watching the video, guys.